What if I told you that the biggest traitor in your life has been your own voice? That voice whispering you can't do it, that you're not enough, that it's better not to try. It's not the world holding you back, it's you. You. With your doubts, your excuses, and your fear disguised as logic. But listen closely. No one's coming to save you, and you don't need them to. The only thing you need is to believe it. You've spent too long at the mercy of other people's noise, letting the world's shouting drown out the most important whisper, your own. Today you're going to reclaim that voice. Today you're going to remember what it means to belong to yourself. Because Stoicism isn't ancient poetry, it's a silent scream of power. In this video, you're going to discover principles that can shatter your inner chains. You'll learn to focus on yourself, believe in yourself, act for yourself. Not as motivational quotes, but as a life sentence. Fair warning, what's coming isn't comfortable. But if you dare to face that inner critic head-on, you'll walk away with an identity so solid, not even the whole world could shake you. This is the beginning. Of you. For you. Only you. But first, I'm going to tell you something you won't forget. The night was filled with sirens and smoke. The fire had started in the building next door, but it spread so fast it reached the block where Laura lived. In the middle of screams and chaos, she managed to get out into the street with only what she was wearing. She only had time to grab her phone and her keys. The rest was reduced to ashes. As she watched the flames devour everything she knew, she felt as if her whole world was burning along with her belongings. Photos, memories, her work computer, even the letter her mother had left her before she died, all gone in a matter of minutes. That night, she slept in her car. It was raining, and the sound of raindrops hitting the windshield was the only thing breaking the silence. She cried. She felt anger, and she asked herself, now what? How do you move on when you lose everything? Days went by, and Laura found no answers. She hid away in cafes to connect to Wi-Fi, tried to appear normal, but inside she felt a black hole. Until one day, while searching through saved files on her phone, she came across a screenshot of a phrase her grandfather always repeated: "What matters is not what happens, but how you react to it." She looked it up and discovered it came from Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who had been a slave and yet taught how to be free on the inside. She read more about him and about Marcus Aurelius, about how they faced situations infinitely worse without losing their calm. And there, in the middle of her pain, something new began to grow. A calm she had never felt before. Laura stopped lamenting over what she had lost and began focusing on what she could control: her mind, her attitude, her next step. She used her savings to rent a small studio. No furniture, no decorations, just a mattress and a makeshift desk. But every morning she told herself, "It's not things that give me value. I'm the one who gives value to my life." Little by little, she rebuilt not only her home but also her mindset. She learned to live light without depending on what could be taken away. And that experience, which at first seemed like a curse, became the spark that led her to launch her own online business. Today, she shares her story in talks, and when people ask her how she did it, she answers with a calm smile. "I understood it the night I lost everything." Your mindset is everything. Stay calm and have confidence in yourself. You know what's the best part of this story? It's not about the fire. It's about how a trained mind can rise even from the ashes. Laura didn't become strong because she had no fear, but because she embraced it and decided not to let it defeat her. That is the power of Stoicism. That is the calm and confidence I want you to discover today. Now tell me, how long has it felt like chaos is winning the game against you? I'm not talking about normal, everyday stress. I'm talking about that feeling that you've lost control, that anything can set you off, that your confidence shakes at the slightest thing. If this question strikes a chord with you, subscribe and become an exclusive member to keep strengthening your mind and building a calm no one can break. And share it in the comments. What's the thing that's stealing your peace the most lately? Or simply write, "Stoic at heart." Today I take the first step to regain control of my life. Lesson 1. Every obstacle is training you. You walk into an empty room. There's only a chalkboard, a chair, and a tall figure with arms crossed and a stern look. That's your obstacle. It's not here to greet you or make things easy. It's here to test you. And the first thing it says is, you're not here to complain, you're here to learn. That's how your lesson begins. A lesson you didn't ask for, but one that, if you pay attention, can teach you more than any self-help book ever could. Because yes, obstacles disguise themselves as enemies. But in reality, they're your mind's personal trainers. They pull you out of your comfort zone, make you sweat, stumble, think. And most importantly, they bring you back to yourself. To that place where, without distractions or excuses, you're left with only one option: to grow. Let me tell you a story so you see I'm not exaggerating. Miriam Fernandez was born with cerebral palsy. Doctors said she'd never walk, but she didn't believe them. Years later, not only was she walking, she was singing, giving talks, standing on stage sharing her story. She won a talent show and gave a TED Talk where she dropped a line that still echoes in many minds. The barriers aren't in your legs, they're in your mind. She didn't ask for an easier life. She became stronger. And do you know why? Because she understood that every challenge she faced was like lifting an invisible weight. And the heavier it was, the more strength she built inside. And that, my friend, applies to you too. I know your story isn't the same. Everyone's is different. But I can guarantee that you too have a teacher in front of you, dressed up as a problem. And even if you hate it now, one day you'll understand what it was trying to teach you. Picture this. Your car breaks down right before an important meeting. Your whole day gets messed up. Everything gets delayed and you're stressed. Do you know what can actually help you in that moment? Stoic philosophy, with a phrase from Marcus Aurelius that feels written for exactly this. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, don't run from the obstacle, turn it into your training ground. Maybe that delay forces you to reorder your priorities, to ask for help, to practice patience. And that, even if you can't see it yet, is shaping you. Because every tough situation forces you to choose, react or respond, complain or grow, run away or face it. And that moment, right there, is where character is built. Where, without realizing it, you're learning. Learning what? To focus on yourself, to trust your own resources, and above all, to move according to what you choose, not what the world throws at you. And since I know you want to start turning obstacles into tools, here's something you can try. Write down the name of your biggest current problem. It could be something personal, financial, family-related, anything. And next to it, write down a skill you're developing by facing it. Maybe you're learning patience, or humility, or how to set boundaries. And you didn't notice it because you were too busy suffering instead of stepping back. This simple shift changes the narrative. It's no longer, why is this happening to me? But, what is this doing for me? Also, when you're facing an obstacle, try not to stress more than necessary. Pause for a second and say in your mind, this is training me. Even if you don't feel it, even if it sounds ridiculous, say it. That phrase is like a switch. It doesn't change what's happening on the outside, but it shifts what's happening inside. And that's where real change begins. And yes, I know, it's hard sometimes, but hear me out. Every time you choose not to give up, you're building a character strong enough to carry anything. And that's what this path is about. It's not about everything going well or expecting the world to go easy on you. It's about focusing on yourself, believing in your strength, and acting from that inner place no obstacle can touch. And if you start looking at your problems that way, you're already winning. So my friend, stop fighting your obstacles. Look them in the eye. Ask them what they came to teach you, and above all, use them to become unstoppable. Now tell us in the comments, what obstacle marked a before and after in your life? What lesson did it leave you? Maybe by sharing it, you'll help someone going through something similar today. And if you don't know where to start, just write, this obstacle is training me. Because sometimes putting it into words is the first step to transforming it. Lesson 2. Don't let an emotion ruin your life. It's late. The clock says past 11, but you're still in front of the computer. Tired? In a bad mood. You know you should have finished hours ago, but a last-minute urgent task came up. Your partner calls from the other room telling you that's enough to close the laptop and pay attention to them. But you can't, or rather, you don't want to. You're frustrated because the computer is slow, the programs won't load, and everything seems to be against you right when you're in the biggest rush. You try to do everything at once, read, edit, send, and you do, with a mistake. A serious one. The kind that could earn you a big scolding, or worse. Then comes the emptiness, the anger, the why did I react like that, and it's not the first time. It's happened before. A bad look, a misplaced word, a click made without thinking. And the funny thing is, it's not the problem that ruins your day, it's your reaction to the problem. That emotion that shows up suddenly and takes the wheel, while you're just there, a passenger in your own head. Seneca wrote about this a lot in On Anger. He believed anger was the most destructive of impulses, that it appears quickly, disguised as justice, but then destroys everything. And the worst part is, it never comes alone. It always drags something with it. A bad decision, a broken relationship, a lost opportunity. That's why he insisted on stopping it the moment it starts to show. He wrote something that will stay with you for a while. No test of greatness is more reliable than to remain in a state where nothing can disturb you. And the more you think about it, the more sense it makes. Do you think he meant being made of stone? Of course not. Even if it doesn't seem like it, the Stoics were human too, with feelings. What he meant was that nothing, no matter how strong, should be able to knock you off your center. Because feeling anger, sadness, fear, that's normal, yes. But letting those emotions decide for you, that's something you can avoid. So my friend, next time you feel anger starting to take over, how will you take back control before it wrecks your day? Let's go back to that opening scene. You're there, in front of the computer, the screen frozen, the clock ticking, your partner calling from the hallway telling you it's time to stop. Anger starts to rise in your chest, you start to sweat, every sound irritates you. Every second feels like a provocation. Your blood boils. You want to yell, slam the laptop shut, blurt out anything. But right there, right at that moment when it feels unstoppable, you have a choice. As psychologist Jordan B. Peterson says, you're not obligated to act like that inner child who loses control when things don't go their way. You can be the adult who sets limits, who breathes, who observes before reacting. Because no, you don't always have to act in the heat of the moment. In fact, the wisest, and also the bravest thing is often to do nothing. For now. First, identify which emotion is speaking to you. Because yes, emotions speak, and if you don't recognize them, they'll just keep shouting louder. Name it. Say quietly, this is anger, or this is frustration, or this is fear. By naming it, you give it shape. And when something has shape, it stops being so scary. You start to see it for what it is, a temporary reaction, not a sentence, not an order, just an emotion that will pass. Then add what we could call your reset ritual. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to turn off all the lights and sit in lotus position. Just break the loop. Stand up and stretch your arms, open the window. Touch something cold with your palms, like a faucet or a mug. Breathe deeply, but with intention, as if each exhale was letting out a bit of that inner poison. Walk to the balcony and stay there for 5 minutes. Look at the sky. Observe what's happening inside you without judging it. And from there, from that small pocket of silence, you can decide again. You can take back the wheel before a fleeting emotion destroys what matters most to you. Remember this, your mindset is everything, and if you don't master your emotions, they'll make the decisions for you. And most of the time, you won't like the outcome. As Seneca said, to conquer your emotions is to conquer your life. Now tell me, when was the last time an emotion ruined your day? Share it in the comments. Or simply write, Stoic at heart. Today I learned to take control from within. Lesson 3. Let your actions match your words. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I'll start tomorrow, knowing perfectly well that tomorrow you'll do the same as always? Have you promised to quit a habit, start a project, or change a routine, and when the moment came, you stayed still? We've all been there, stuck between what we say and what we actually do. And here's where the real question comes in. Did this happen to the Stoics too? Did they really live with that flawless coherence we imagine? Picture Epictetus in his small school in Nicopolis, looking at a student who had been repeating for weeks that he was going to work on his discipline, yet showed up every day with a new excuse. Epictetus didn't yell at him, didn't humiliate him. He just looked him in the eye and said something so simple it was impossible to dodge. "Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me." That was his standard. And that's the mirror you need to look into today. Because here's the problem. You've spent so much time talking about what you're going to do that your brain already feels rewarded without you having done anything. You plan, you promise, you imagine a better version of yourself. And that gives you a false sense of progress, as if thinking about change were the same as changing. But it's not. And you know it. That's why, every time you don't follow through, something inside you breaks a little. It's not guilt. It's not that you're a bad person. It's that real self-trust is built exactly there, when your actions line up with your words, and it's lost when they don't. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not looking at your face but at your whole day reflected back to you. How much of what you said this morning actually happened this afternoon? The Stoics used their own mirror each night. They reviewed their actions as if they were fresh footprints in the sand, not to punish themselves, but to adjust, to see where their words and their actions had drifted apart. Marcus Aurelius might have sighed gently and told you something uncomfortable but necessary. What you do defines you more than what you say, because internal inconsistency isn't a lack of character, it's a lack of reflection. It's running on autopilot, saying things without a real commitment behind them, making yourself promises that never turn into motion. And meanwhile, your self-respect is bleeding out quietly. Epictetus put it plainly. You're not here to impress with your words, but to transform through action. You can talk beautifully about the person you want to become, but if you don't act on it, if you don't take concrete steps, all that talk is just smoke. It's fantasy. It's a promise your future self is stuck carrying. Think of all the times you said you'd read but never opened the book, the times you swore you wouldn't reach out to someone again and ended up doing it anyway, the times you promised to save money but spent it out of anxiety. It's all very human, very understandable, but it all carries a cost you don't notice right away. The cost is your confidence in yourself, because every time you say one thing and do another, you're sending yourself a clear message. My words don't mean much, I can't trust what I promise myself. And then you wonder why it's so hard to believe in yourself, why you freeze when you have to make real decisions. Seneca warned about something that may sound harsh, but it's true. Inner incoherence wears you down more than any external failure, because you can fail at something and get back up, that even makes you stronger. But when you keep breaking promises to yourself, you weaken from the inside. You end up teaching yourself that you're not reliable, even to you. James Clear says something that sounds very stoic. Every action is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. If your actions don't vote for your words, your identity gets confused. You don't really know who you are, because your words are going in one direction, but your actions are going in another, and your brain doesn't know which one to believe. So what do? You start small, but real. Pick one small promise a day and keep it no matter what. Not 10 promises, just one. One so small that there's no excuse not to follow through. One so specific you can clearly mark it as done at the end of the day. Maybe it's getting up when the alarm goes off. Maybe it's making your bed, writing 3 lines, walking 10 minutes. Whatever it is, let it be something you can actually do today, not someday. Because every time you follow through on something small, you rebuild trust in your own word. You prove to yourself that when you say something, you mean it. And check in with yourself before bed. Not to torture yourself over what didn't get done, but to notice where your words and actions were aligned and where they weren't. The Stoics did this every night. Marcus Aurelius would ask himself, did I act according to my principles today or just talk about them? Not to judge, just to adjust. Because that's what matters here. It's not about being perfect. It's about closing the gap between what you say and what you do. Every day that gap shrinks a little. Your confidence grows. Every day your actions support your words. You become more solid on the inside. And stop saying, I'm going to. Start saying, I'm doing, and move, even if it's a tiny step, even if it's imperfect. Because the gap between intention and action is the gap between dreaming your life and actually living it. Marcus Aurelius wasn't great because of how he spoke. He was great because his actions matched his values, even when that was harder than talking, even when it would have been easier to make exceptions, go with the flow, or leave it for later. His consistency was his power, and your consistency can be your power too. But you have to stop fooling yourself. You have to stop comforting yourself with plans you never act on. You have to start walking in the same direction your words point to. Not just say them with more conviction, because nice words don't change your life. Action does. And when what you say and what you do move in unison, confidence comes back on its own. You don't have to search for it or borrow it from someone else. You build it, day by day, action by action, promise kept by promise kept. That's the real way to start trusting yourself again, not by waiting to feel ready, by acting even when you don't, not by promising big changes, by keeping small commitments, not by talking about who you'll become by being that person today, even in the smallest way. And one day, a few weeks or months from now, when you look back, you'll see something different. You'll see someone whose words mean something, someone who follows through, someone you can trust, starting with yourself. Lesson 4. Without consistency, you're going nowhere. Tell me the truth. How many times have you started something full of energy only to leave it halfway through? How many times have you told yourself, this time it'll be different? And 3 days later, you're back where you started. No, it's not that you lack willpower. It's that you're waiting to feel like doing something before you act. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's not how it works. Because if you only do things when you're motivated, you'll be stuck in a never-ending cycle of starting and quitting. Consistency doesn't feel epic. It doesn't come with soundtrack music or fireworks, but it's what separates the people who build their lives from the ones who just imagine them. Because, my friend, if you don't show up when you don't feel like it, you're never going to get anywhere. And you know who explains this in a clear, no-fluff way? Rob Dial, creator of the podcast The Mindset Mentor. In one of his episodes, he said something that made me stop in my tracks. It's not what you do one day. It's what you repeat when no one's watching. And he wasn't saying this from a place of perfection, but as someone who's built his discipline through stumbles. He said there are plenty of days when he doesn't feel like recording, training, or writing, but he does it anyway, because he knows the key isn't doing it when it's easy. It's doing it even when it's not. That's what makes the difference. Not a surge of inspiration, but those quiet, repeated, almost boring steps. But they're consistent, and that's what builds real confidence. Not because you did it once, but because you're showing yourself you can do it every day. Consistency, even when it feels dull, is the foundation of any real transformation. Imagine you want to leave your job and start your own thing. And to do that, you need to learn a new software. So what do? Try it for a day, and when it's hard, wait to feel motivated again. You won't make it with one burst of effort. You'll make it with 1,000 quiet actions, 1,000 steps that, on their own, don't impress anyone, but together they build the path to your best self. And yes, it's hard, because your brain is wired to save energy. It loves shortcuts and instant rewards. So the moment things get uncomfortable, your mind starts whispering, it's okay if you skip today and you'll make up for it tomorrow. But tomorrow says the same thing, and then the month ends, and you wonder why nothing's changed. So how do you break that cycle? First, create what I call a visible tracker. Something that reminds you daily that you're following through. It could be a sheet on the fridge where you mark an X every day you stick to your commitment. It could be an app, a calendar, a bracelet, whatever. The point is to see it, and every time you hit 8 days in a row, celebrate it. Do something just for you. Give yourself a reward. It could be a free afternoon, your favorite meal, a walk somewhere you love. Make it a game. Make it part of who you are. And second, eliminate the question, do I feel like it, from your vocabulary. No, it's not about feeling like it. It's about deciding. Every time you catch yourself hesitating, replace the question with this statement: I can and I want to do this, even if you don't feel it yet. Saying it puts you back in control. It puts you in the driver's seat, not just watching from the sidelines. Marcus Aurelius, who had no time for excuses, said it clearly. Do what nature requires of you. Don't get distracted by anything else. And what's required of you isn't a motivational speech in the mirror. It's action, even when you're tired, even when no one is watching, even when there are no results yet, because that's where those who truly believe in their path are forged. And just so you don't get overwhelmed, let me remind you, you don't need to do 1,000 things. Just one, but every day. Because success doesn't arrive in a giant wave. It comes drop by drop, habit by habit, day after day. If consistency were visible, you'd see it building the bridge to the person you want to become. And the sooner you start walking across that bridge, the sooner you'll get to where you truly deserve to be. Lesson 5. Stop underestimating yourself once and for all. Picture Marcus Aurelius after a disastrous day as emperor. Tough decisions that backfired. Criticism from all sides. Someone he trusted betraying him. He could have gone to bed telling himself he was a failure. But instead, he sat down and wrote in his personal notebook, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will keep flowing if you just keep digging." He didn't write that to impress anyone, he wrote it for himself, so he wouldn't forget his worth when giving up seemed easier. Now compare that to what you do. You make one mistake and suddenly you're condemned for life. I'm a mess. I'm not cut out for this. I always screw things up. Really? Always? Or have you just let your worth depend on a bunch of random things that happened to you? That test you failed, that partner who left you, that boss who never saw your effort, that family that doesn't know how to show appreciation, and there you are carrying all that around like it's your official resume, like every past failure is undeniable proof that you can't try anything new. Let's be honest, if your best friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, you'd have cut them out of your life years ago. But because the voice is in your head, you put up with it in silence. You wake up, and before anything else happens, you're already going through your mental list of everything you did wrong. Yesterday, last week, 5 years ago, sound familiar? Look, Marcus Aurelius had an entire empire watching him. Thousands of people waiting on his decisions. Armies depending on his orders. And even then, he understood something you've forgotten. The only judgment that truly mattered was his own. The one he made when he looked within, not the judgment of people who cheered one day and criticized the next. Listen to me. Epictetus was a slave, literally. Crippled, no titles, no famous name, none of the things the world calls success. And still, he saw himself as the absolute master of his own mind, because he understood something fundamental. The emperor isn't worth more because of his crown, and the slave isn't worth less because of his chains. What defines you isn't what life throws at you. It's what you choose to do with it. But you've created something far more dangerous than any external chain. You've created an inner voice that reminds you of every mistake, every moment you weren't enough, every time you failed. And that voice shows up exactly when you need it to shut up, when you have to raise your hand in a meeting, when a growth opportunity appears, when someone asks if you're ready to take on something new. I'll probably say something dumb. This isn't for me, it's for more capable people. It was just luck, next time I'll mess it up for sure. See what you're doing? You're treating yourself like the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Seneca, who lived surrounded by luxury, but also betrayal and exile, would tell you something very clearly if he were here. Are you seriously going to keep being your own worst enemy? Don't you already have enough going on outside? Here's the truth, my friend. You can't build a stronger, more grounded version of yourself if every day you wake up stepping on your own head. It doesn't work like that. You can't expect confidence while speaking to yourself like you're trash. So what do? You start with something very simple, but very powerful. When you make a mistake, instead of launching into the full "I'm a disaster" speech, you pause, and you switch it out for something real. Okay, I messed up here. This didn't go the way I wanted. But this doesn't erase everything I do right. This isn't self-deception, it's fairness. It's about stopping the obsession with prosecuting yourself and starting to be an honest witness of your own life. Marcus Aurelius walked with his head high not because he was perfect, but because he knew something you've forgotten. Walking tall isn't arrogance, it's remembering that you're still worthy, even when you mess up. Look at how you carry yourself through the world. Do you stare at the floor? Speak in a low voice like you're apologizing for existing? Shrink yourself when you walk into a room? That's the body language of someone who's disqualified themselves before even starting. And your brain reads it. Your mind interprets those gestures as proof that you're not worth much. So start with something as simple as lifting your chin, holding your gaze, speaking with a bit more firmness. Not aggression, just the presence of someone who takes themselves seriously. Now do this. Revisit your story, not as a victim, but the way a Stoic would. Instead of replaying all the drama, go back over the times you got back up, the times you held someone else together while you were falling apart, the times you learned something important from a mistake, the times you kept moving forward, even when you were broken. That's part of your story too. But you've spent so much time focused on the bad, you forgot there's another version just as real, a version where you're not the perfect victim, but someone who's endured way more than they realize. I'm not asking you to deny your mistakes. I'm asking you to stop using them as a weapon against yourself. There's a huge difference between acknowledging a failure and defining yourself by it forever. If Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca had spoken to themselves the way you speak to yourself, they wouldn't have written a single line of what we read today. They wouldn't have overcome their storms. They wouldn't have found the inner peace they were searching for. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't find peace or strength while being your own worst enemy. You can't get back up if every time you try, there's a voice inside you pushing you down. So decide something today. Decide that from now on, you won't speak to yourself like someone who hates you. Decide that you'll treat yourself with at least the same dignity you'd show a stranger on the street. Because believe me, you wouldn't say half the things you tell yourself to someone you didn't even know. You want to rise and trust yourself again? Great. Start here. Stop stepping on your own head. Marcus, Epictetus, Seneca, none of them would have accepted the way you talk to yourself, and neither should you. Starting today, I decide not to speak to myself like my worst enemy. That's the starting line. Everything else comes after that. Sixth lesson. Surround yourself with people who add, not subtract. Think about this for a moment. You're at work, and that colleague who always sees the negative starts their usual speech that nothing is worth it. You go for coffee with that friend who, every time you talk, reminds you of your mistakes and makes you feel like you'll never achieve anything. Or you get home, and someone close makes comments that sound like jokes, but leave you with a bitter feeling. Meanwhile, you wonder why lately your confidence feels shaky and keeping calm has become harder. Now reflect. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Because believe it or not, you're becoming like them. It's like letting your phone charge with a broken cable. Instead of gaining energy, it drains you little by little. And you don't even notice until one day you have no battery left for anything. Seneca made it clear. Associate with those who can improve you. Whoever is with you is with you. It's not just a nice phrase. It's a warning. Your company shapes your character, your thoughts, and even your ability to stay strong when everything gets tough. I realized what Seneca said firsthand. There was a moment when I changed my habits, started caring for my mind, and sought growth. Then I looked around, and the pieces didn't fit. The 5 people I spent the most time with were like this. 2 undermined my confidence and made me feel small. Another complained about everything. 1 was so comfortable in their comfort zone that any change scared them. And the last one lived in eternal victimhood. I wanted to move forward, discover opportunities, strengthen my mind, but I was stuck. Every time I was with them, I left drained, feeling like everything was harder than it really was. And I'm not the only one. Oprah Winfrey shared that something similar happened to her. She understood that her success wasn't just from talent or hard work, but from surrounding herself with people who pushed her to grow. She cut off relationships that drained her, even when they were close or meant a lot in the past, because she understood that to stay strong and confident, she had to protect her space. So, my friend, want to find out if the people around you add to your life or subtract? Let's check right now. First, take a snapshot of your environment. Don't put it off, do it right now. Grab paper and pen, yes, really, and write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It doesn't matter if they're family, friends, co-workers, or someone you chat with daily. Now, next to each name, put a simple arrow up or down. Up, if after spending time with that person you feel more energized, motivated, with new ideas, or more calm. Down if instead you leave drained, doubtful, anxious, or feeling your confidence shrinks a little more. Then, look at the pattern. If more than half those arrows point down, there's your reason why lately it's been hard to keep calm and confident. It's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of stones. No matter how hard you try, the extra weight slows you down. Next, mark in another color the people you truly want to keep close, and think about how you can spend more time with them. Maybe it's a weekly coffee, a quick call to share good news, or even collaborating on a project together. You don't need grand gestures, just more moments that recharge you. Well done. Now comes the hard part, reducing time with those who subtract. It's not about disappearing from their lives overnight, but about protecting yours. Start by cutting short conversations that always end in complaints or criticism. Don't get into unnecessary arguments. And find healthy excuses to prioritize other activities that do add to you. Finally, commit to being someone who adds too. Ask yourself what you bring when someone spends time with you. Do you leave them feeling more alive or less? Because change doesn't start only with what you remove. It starts with what you offer. Because in the end, your ability to keep calm and trust yourself also depends on who walks beside you. If you surround yourself with people who believe in you, inspire you, and push you forward, you'll have an invisible shield against anything trying to shake your mind. The question is, are you willing to make that cleanup and keep only those who add? And if everything we've seen so far has helped you recover your calm and confidence, wait, because what's coming next is the piece that can hold it all together. Because there's no point in learning to stand firm if you then let certain people dim your light. That, perhaps, is the most decisive factor to shield your mind and inner peace. Lesson 7. Prove to yourself that you can trust you. My friend, I want you to reflect on this. What if every time you break a promise to yourself, you're telling your mind, "You can't count on me." You say you'll wake up early, then the alarm goes off. You hit snooze and roll over. You say you'll start on Monday, but Friday rolls around and nothing's changed. You say you're going to turn things around, but you fall into the same patterns again. Sound familiar? No, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you lack motivation. It means, without realizing it, you're proving to yourself every day that you're not someone you can trust. And when that happens, something inside starts to crack. Because trust doesn't come from repeating motivational quotes in front of the mirror. It comes from keeping your word, from your promises carrying weight, even when no one else hears them. And I'm not saying this from a pedestal. I've been there too. There was a time when I made giant to-do lists. Wake up at 6, meditate, read, eat healthy, work out, study a language, start a project. And in the end, I wouldn't stick to even 2 of those things. The result? Frustration. and a little voice inside whispering, "See? You always do this." Until one day I'd had enough. I made myself one promise, just one. For the next 7 days, I won't touch my phone in the first hour of the day. That's it. No extreme changes, no miracle habits. Just that. And I followed through, and you can't imagine how much that meant to me. It wasn't about the habit itself. It was the feeling of, I said it, I did it. That's when I realized I didn't need to change my whole life. I just needed to believe in myself again. Slowly, quietly. That's when trust started growing. And from that day on, I've done whatever it takes not to disappoint myself. Epictetus said you shouldn't be ashamed of needing help. What you should be ashamed of is doing nothing about it. And many times, the first help you need is to stop sabotaging yourself, to stop letting yourself down, to stop betraying yourself with pretty excuses that mean nothing. And you know who talks about this with admirable clarity? Seth Godin. He's a writer, a speaker, one of the most original thinkers in the marketing world. But he didn't always have confidence in himself. For years, he tried to publish his books and received over 800 rejection letters. Even his own publisher gave up on him after several low-selling releases. That's when the doubts crept in. Doubts about his talent, his worth, his path. For a while, as he's openly shared, he thought maybe he wasn't good enough. Maybe he was wasting his time. But in the middle of that fog, he made a radical decision: to stop waiting for outside validation and start showing up for himself. To create without asking permission. To write every day. To keep going, even when he wasn't sure. And that's when everything changed. Because he understood something most people still don't get. Confidence doesn't come from results. It comes from commitment. That's why he says, confidence is not a promise of success. It's a decision to show up. That's it. To show up. To follow through. Even if it's not perfect. Even if it's hard. Even if no one's watching, it's not blind faith, it's real consistency. It's the moment you stop telling yourself stories and start writing them with your actions. I know you're ready to prove that your word means something. So here's a challenge. Choose one promise so small you have no excuse not to keep it. A micro-action. It could be not touching your phone first thing in the morning, or writing down one sentence at the end of the day, or doing one push-up every morning. But do it for 1 week. No failures, no negotiations, no explanations. And if you miss a day, don't justify it. Don't say, I was tired, I had a rough day, I didn't have time. Say the truth. I didn't do it. Period. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also the start of a clean conscience. A conscience that looks you in the eye. Because only when you take full ownership can you start to change. Every time you follow through, you're building something inside. Something you can't see in the mirror, but you can feel in how you walk, how you decide, how you face life. And every time you break a promise to yourself, you're also building something. But what you're building is a wall between you and your best self. A wall that only your actions, not your excuses, can tear down. Now tell us, what micro-promise will you keep this week? No excuses, no justifications. Write it in the comments. Let that be your first act of commitment to yourself. Because when you follow through, you start focusing on yourself, truly believing in yourself, and acting from your own strength. And that, my friend, is something no one can take away from you. Lesson 8. Do what's right, not what's easy. Picture this. You're sitting in a meeting. The air is tense. The boss asks an uncomfortable question and everyone looks around, waiting for someone else to speak. Suddenly, you see the perfect opportunity to drop a comment that would make a colleague look bad and make you look good. You can feel it right there, almost on the tip of your tongue. That quick impulse saying, do it, take the chance. But at the same time, another voice inside you reminds you, that's not who you are, that it's not worth betraying yourself for a moment of applause. You choose to stay silent or even defend that person. And here's the thing. In the end, you don't just earn respect, you also go home with the peace of having done the right thing. Tell me, how many times have you done what your impulses told you, only to regret it later? Probably more times than you'd like. It's like eating that whole pizza at 3 in the morning. instant pleasure, guaranteed chaos the next day. And I'm not just talking about the indigestion. It happens with words we say, decisions we make, actions we know don't align with who we are. In the moment, it feels like a good idea, but afterward, they take away our peace. My friend, doing the right thing is like planting a tree. At first, you may not see results. It might even feel hard. But over time, that tree gives you shade, fruit, and a place you can always return to. Marcus Aurelius summed it up in a phrase that still hits hard. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. He didn't live in an easy world. He faced political pressures, wars, betrayals, but he understood that his real strength didn't come from winning every external battle, but from not losing the internal one. And that's the point. If you want nothing and no one to shake your mind, you have to trust yourself. And the best way to trust yourself is to know you always choose what's right, even when it's hard. This reminds me of Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. He lost everything: family, home, freedom. But he didn't lose his dignity. He said that even in the camps, there were two kinds of people: those who let circumstances dictate their behavior, and those who, even in the middle of horror, chose small acts of humanity, sharing a piece of bread, comforting another prisoner, refusing to steal clothes from someone weaker. Frankl said the last human freedom is to choose our attitude. And that choice, my friend, is what keeps you whole. Because when you do what's right, even if no one sees it, even if no one applauds, you send yourself a message: I can trust me. And that creates a kind of calm that's very different from the one given by circumstances. It's a calm that doesn't depend on whether the day is sunny or pouring rain. It depends only on you. So next time temptation whispers, "Do it now," you'll already have practiced, and you'll be able to keep your calm and your confidence intact. First, define your non-negotiable values. Write them down. Keep them close. Don't let them just float around as vague ideas in your head. If you know that integrity, honesty, or loyalty are your foundation, it'll be much harder for a single situation to pull you off track. Then, when you feel that push to act quickly, count to 10. And don't do it like reciting a recipe. Use that time to picture how you'll feel afterward if you follow your values, and how you'll feel if you break them. That image will help you decide. Finally, acknowledge every time you choose what's right, even if it's uncomfortable. Yes, celebrate it. It can be a quick thought: I did it, I stayed true. That recognition strengthens your trust in yourself, and trust is the foundation of your calm. Doing what's right won't always give you the fastest way out, but it will always give you the most lasting peace. And that peace is worth more than any short-term victory. So if you face a hard decision today, remember, your calm and your confidence are not up for negotiation. Ninth lesson: a little gratitude each day changes a lot. Chances are today you saw 10 good things, but they slipped right past you. A kind glance, a quiet breath, something that went right without you even planning it. Seneca once said that those who don't learn to see the good will end up living as if nothing is ever enough. And maybe that happened to you today. There was light, but your mind was too busy pointing out the shadows. But a true Stoic knows that the mind can be trained to see what holds you up, not just what's missing. They know that gratitude isn't a cheesy gesture. It's a way to come back to the present and regain control of yourself. Because here's the problem: your brain is wired to detect threats. It's biology. It's not your fault. For thousands of years, that's what kept us alive. But now, you live in a world where real threats are rare, and your brain still works like everything is dangerous, like everything is a problem, like nothing is ever enough. And there you are, overlooking things you once prayed for: a hot cup of coffee, a conversation that made you smile, a moment of peace, someone checking in without you asking. They're so small your threat-focused mind ignores them completely, but your soul still needs them. Gratitude doesn't mean denying your problems. It doesn't mean pretending everything's perfect when it's not. It means training your eyes to also see what's working. Because if all you see is what's missing, You'll never feel like anything's enough. You'll never trust that you're capable of building something good. You'll always be stuck in lack. Seneca put it bluntly, those who don't appreciate what they have will never have enough. You can have more money, more success, more recognition, more everything. And if you don't learn to value what you already have, nothing will ever feel like it's enough. Because the problem isn't what you have, it's how you look at it. Gratitude works like a magnifying glass. It's not that you don't have good things, it's that you're not zooming in. When you train your gratitude, you're not faking happiness. You're amplifying what already exists, what's already there, but that your mind's been ignoring because it was focused on something else. Think about your day. That moment on the bus when you looked out the window and breathed a second of calm. That random laugh with a friend. That small gesture someone made that you forgot about 5 minutes later. All of that happened. All of it was real. But your mind skipped over it because it's busy chasing the next problem to solve. Sean Acor, a researcher at Harvard, found something the Stoics already knew without lab tests. The simple act of noticing 3 good things each day improves your mood in just a few weeks. Not because your life magically changes, but because your focus does. Because it trains your brain to look for good, not just bad. And that changes everything. When you start to notice what you do have, comparison loses its grip. When you see what's working, the problems don't disappear, but they stop taking up all the space. When you acknowledge what's good, you start to believe you're capable of creating more of it. You don't need a journal. You don't need a fancy ritual. When you brush your teeth tonight, just mentally list 3 good things from your day. That's it. A habit layered on top of another. 3 seconds that remind your brain. Not everything is a threat. Not everything is missing. Not everything is wrong. And here's the key. Give thanks for something small from a hard day, not just from a good one, because anyone can be grateful on a good day. When everything shines, gratitude is easy. But to find something to appreciate on a hard day, that's where the real training is. That's when your perspective starts to shift. Epictetus focused on valuing what's within your control. Your breath, your ability to choose your thoughts, your inner freedom, even when everything outside is chaos. Those things are always with you. You always have them. But you only recognize them when you train your attention to see them. Lesson 10. Become so strong that nothing can break you. Ed Lattimore didn't wake up one day saying, "I'm going to change my life." No, of course not. He woke up one day with a swollen face, a sick stomach, and a deep emptiness that not even alcohol could hide. It was just another morning, but with one crucial difference. For the first time in years, he dared to look at his reflection and whisper, "I can't keep going like this." He was a boxer, yes. He had learned how to take hits in the ring, but outside of it, each day left him more beaten. The hangovers, the excuses, the chaos, they were destroying him from the inside. And there, right at that breaking point, where many give up, Ed made a decision that changed everything: to stop self-destructing. He started to rebuild himself with trembling hands, but with a conviction he had never felt before. He quit drinking. He distanced himself from the people dragging him down. He started writing, studying, creating a life with purpose. It wasn't quick or easy, but it was real. And when he talks about strength now, he's not talking about muscle. He's talking about character. He says, being strong isn't about enduring everything. It's about building yourself so solid that what used to break you doesn't anymore. That's the key. Because no, life isn't about dodging every punch. It's about becoming someone so steady on the inside that no punch can knock you out. You're not going to be able to control every storm, but you can learn to walk through the rain without losing your step. That's where true strength lies, in inner steadiness, in quiet discipline, in the determination to keep going even when everything seems against you. And maybe you don't see it yet, but you've already made it through things that would have crushed others, and you're still here. You may not feel invincible, but you've endured more than you realize. What's ahead isn't about surviving anymore. It's about shifting from endurance to transformation, from holding on to forging yourself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men of his time, understood this better than most. He ruled during wars, plagues, betrayals, and still he wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." Because living isn't about moving gracefully under perfect lights. It's about enduring, adapting, and advancing even in the mud. He didn't speak from theory, he spoke from practice, from a place of responsibility, pain, and purpose. And his strength didn't come from his title. It came from his mind. And this is where you can begin to strengthen yourself. Because when you learn to focus on you, to trust what you're building inside, and to act from your principles instead of reacting to everything outside, you transform. Not into someone who can endure everything, but into someone who no longer crumbles at anything. So, when the storm hits, when something shakes you hard, one thing that can help is this. Write down the 3 hardest things you've already overcome. Read it. Remember it. Go back there. Because if you made it through that, why wouldn't you make it through this? Another powerful habit is to create your own strength ritual. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just one small daily action that reconnects you to your center when everything feels off. It could be a cold shower in the morning, playing energizing music while reading that list, or writing down one phrase each night that reminds you what you're made of. Make it yours. Keep it simple but grounding. And when you feel like something is too much, try this Stoic phrase. This too is part of the training. Because it is. Every unexpected moment, every rejection, every painful hit is training you. It's teaching you how to endure, how to adapt, how to grow. Even if you don't get it yet, a stronger version of you is being born inside every difficulty. Strength isn't inherited, it's built, decision by decision, sometimes in silence with no audience, no applause. But every time you choose not to give up, every time you rise with more courage than complaint, you're growing. You weren't born fragile, you were just under construction. And if every choice is a brick, today you've got the materials to build something no chaos can tear down. A version of you so steady that even the fiercest storm can't shake it. Because when you become your own shelter, you no longer need life to be perfect to be at peace. Lesson 11. Pay attention to just one thing around you. A sound, a texture, a sensation. Don't judge it, don't analyze it, just observe it. That pure act of observation is deeply stoic and deeply practical. It pulls you out of mental noise and into where you really are. Because here's the truth, my friend. You can't build anything solid if you're mentally absent all the time. You can't trust yourself if, when it's time to decide, your mind is stuck replaying mistakes from 5 years ago or imagining disasters that will never happen. The present is your refuge, but it's also your power. It's where you make the decisions that shape your life. It's where you act. It's where you build. It's where you truly live. The Stoics didn't talk about the present as something mystical. They talked about it as something deeply practical. Marcus Aurelius didn't sit around contemplating the moment. He returned to it so he could act with clarity. So he could decide without the past pulling him back or the future paralyzing him with fear. And that's exactly what you need to do. Every time your mind wanders, bring it back. Not with violence, not with frustration, just with patience. Like training a distracted puppy, over and over again. Come back here. Come back now, because you can't rise or learn to trust yourself again if you're trapped in time zones that don't exist. The present is where you get your power back. It's where you find yourself. It's where anything is possible, because it's the only thing that actually is. Come back to it, and when you do, you'll realize something. You were never as lost as you thought. You were just in the wrong place, and that place was your own mind, living in every time but this one. Come back to the present. That's where you take back control. Lesson 12. Don't react, respond calmly. Picture this. Someone speaks to you harshly. You feel attacked, and your body reacts before your mind even catches up. Your pulse rises, your jaw tightens, and the sharp response is already on the tip of your tongue, ready to launch. And right then, imagine Seneca stepping into the scene, as if watching from a corner, saying, "Anger is a brief madness. Not to judge you, but to remind you. If you respond out of impulse, you're the one who loses, not them, you. Because that's exactly what happens when you react without thinking. You give away your power. You hand someone else control over your inner state. And afterward, once you've exploded, once you've said what you shouldn't have said, once you've sent that message you can't take back, you realize it, but it's too late. The damage is done. Calm is not the absence of emotion. It's not turning into a robot who feels nothing. It's the presence of control. It's feeling the full emotion, recognizing it, and still choosing how you respond. That's what the Stoics practiced every single day. They weren't emotionless people. They were people who refused to let their emotions control them. Marcus Aurelius knew this better than anyone. He could receive devastating news, betrayal, military failure, unfair criticism, and before reacting, he paused. He reminded himself of something essential. Someone else's behavior doesn't define your character, but your response does. They could insult him, attack him, lie about him. But how he chose to respond, that was entirely up to him. Think about your daily life. Someone sends you a passive-aggressive message, and you immediately start typing a long reply, defending yourself, explaining, firing back. Your fingers move on their own. Adrenaline spikes. You're in full war mode. Until something stops you. You breathe, you delete it all, and you simply write, "Let's talk later." That 1 second of pause changed everything. You didn't stay silent out of weakness. You chose not to give power to something that didn't deserve your energy. That's responding with calm. That's acting like a Stoic. Or you're at work. Someone points out a mistake in front of others. You feel that urgent need to defend yourself instantly, to explain it wasn't your fault, to protect your ego like it's under attack. But if you respond from that place, from that immediate need to defend, you lose, because your reply will come out tense, defensive, clumsy. But if you wait 2 seconds, if you breathe, if you let the emotion cool down even slightly, you can say something far more powerful. "You're right. I'll take a look." Or, "I hear you. Let me check what happened." You're not being weak. You're being smart. You're choosing clarity over reactivity. Epictetus put it simply, "What angers you, conquers you." If someone's words can flip your entire state, if one comment can ruin your whole day, if one look can send you into defense mode, then that person has more power over you than you do. And that can't be. Your mind has an invisible button you could press to respond with clarity, if only you'd use it. It's like the delay button on cameras that helps avoid blurry photos. Just a tiny space, 2 or 3 seconds, before you speak. The Stoics used it all the time. That brief moment where emotion fades and reason shows up. Where you can choose instead of just react. Think about an argument with your partner. You start off wanting to win. You want to be right. You want to prove the other person wrong. And meanwhile, the whole conversation falls apart. Because you're not talking anymore. You're battling. You're attacking. And in the end, no one wins. You both lose. But if in the middle of that argument, right when things are about to explode, one of you pauses and says, "Wait, I don't want to fight. I want to understand you." Everything shifts. Because now the goal isn't to win, it's to talk, to solve, to hold on to calm in the middle of chaos. That's real power, my friend. Not yelling louder, not getting the last word, not proving you're right. Real power is staying centered when everything invites you to lose control. It's responding with clarity when it would be easier to blow up. Seneca said something that seems obvious, but we forget constantly. The best cure for anger is delay. He wasn't asking you to never get angry. He was asking you not to act from anger. To wait, to let the first wave pass. Because that first wave almost never takes you where you want to go. Here's something you can try today. Before you reply to any emotionally charged message, walk around the room. 10 steps. That tiny bit of physical movement is enough to break the emotional chain. Your body moves, your mind disconnects from the impulse, and when you come back to the message, you don't see it the same way. You're not responding from the same place, or choose a phrase for yourself, something to act as your Stoic switch, a reminder of who you want to be in that moment. It could be as simple as, I don't give power to what I can't control, or I respond with clarity, not emotion, or whatever works for you, but have one. And use it every time you feel yourself about to react. And shift your goal in arguments. Stop trying to be right. Start trying to stay clear. That shift is profoundly Stoic. Because when your goal is to be right, anything that threatens that will put you on the attack. But when your goal is clarity, you can listen. You can consider. You can even change your mind without feeling like you lost. Marcus Aurelius faced life and death decisions every day. And before acting, he would ask himself, is this coming from my best self, or from fear, ego, or pride? That question saved him from reactions he would have regretted, and it can save you too. Because here's the truth. Most of your problems don't come from what happens to you. They come from how you react to what happens to you. People are going to speak to you harshly. They'll misunderstand you. They'll attack you. They'll say unfair things. That's going to happen. You can't control it. But you can control whether you let it ruin your day. You can control whether you respond from your best self or your worst impulse. You can control whether you keep your calm or throw it away in the first round. And when you manage that, when you hold on to calm in the middle of chaos, something shifts inside you. You begin to trust yourself in a new way. Not because everything is going well, but because you know you can stay steady even when everything's going wrong. That you can respond with clarity even when everything inside you is screaming to react. Calm isn't the prize you get when life is easy. It's the path you choose when life is hard. And if you want to build a stronger, more grounded version of yourself, start by trusting your ability to respond with clarity, even when everything inside you wants to explode, because right there is where you truly live like a Stoic. Lesson 13. Thinking without acting gets you nowhere. There's something we all do without even realizing it, that sounds productive but isn't. We think a lot. We think about what we should do, what we could achieve, everything that would change our lives if we just started. We tell ourselves, I've got a great idea, I'll do it when I have more time, or I'll wait until I feel ready. And just like that, we become geniuses in theory, but eternal beginners in practice. Having ideas without acting on them is like owning a bike without wheels. You can admire it, imagine all the places it could take you, but you won't move an inch. It's just decoration. Action is what sets transformation in motion. And this is where most people fail, because they mistake mental clarity for real progress. My friend, no, thinking is not moving forward. Planning is not building. And wanting something doesn't mean you're actually doing something to get it. Seneca wrote this centuries ago, as if he already knew exactly what we'd be dealing with today. While we waste time hesitating and postponing, life speeds by. Picture Seneca skipping sword training because he was waiting to feel more energized, or canceling a meeting with the emperor because he wasn't in his best mindset. Of course not. In his time, there wasn't much room for excuses. You either acted, or the days dragged you along. That hasn't changed. The only difference is, now we have way more distractions to justify inaction. Speaking of modern times, Stephen Bartlett, creator of the podcast The Diary of a CEO, said something you need to tattoo in your mind. The biggest enemy of your success is the part of you that says tomorrow will be a better day to start. This comes from someone who built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch. And how did he do it? Not by waiting for the perfect moment, but by starting before he felt ready. Because if you wait for everything to line up, you'll be waiting forever. I get it. It's hard to take that first step. Sometimes you're scared, sometimes you're tired, and a lot of the time, you're just stuck in the habit of putting things off. But if you don't act, you don't move forward. So here are 3 ideas to help you stop overthinking. and start doing. First, every morning, write down one non-negotiable action. Just one. But make it clear, simple, and direct. Don't write, be healthier. Write, do 20 squats right now. Don't say, be more productive. Say, read 5 pages right now. Make it so specific that you can't lie to yourself. Second, use what I call emotional airplane mode. When your brain starts spiraling, when you feel that inner voice saying, maybe later, act immediately. Don't give your mind time to build excuses. Cut through doubt with movement. Like turning on airplane mode before your phone rings. Do it fast, without overthinking. And third, when you catch yourself stuck in a mental loop again, say this to yourself. Deciding is cutting. If I don't cut, I stay stuck. Because deciding doesn't mean thinking more. Deciding means eliminating one option, closing the door to excuses, and opening the door to action. My friend, you could read every personal development book on the planet. You could listen to every podcast, watch every video like this one. But if you don't do anything with it, it's just like collecting tools and never using them. Real self-confidence doesn't come from what you know. It comes from what you do. As Marcus Aurelius said, a man's life is what his actions make it, not his thoughts, not his plans, his actions. So, what are you going to do with your life today? Because thinking is fine, but acting is what changes your story. So tell us, what's the first step you're going to take to act for yourself? This community will applaud you, because here, we all believe in you. Lesson 14. Failure doesn't define you, it trains you. Picture Cicero getting the news that he'd been exiled from Rome. Everything he had worked for, his political career, his influence, his prestige, collapsed in an instant. He could have given up. He could have let that massive failure define him, but he didn't. Cicero started writing more than ever, and the Stoics around him saw that attitude as the clearest proof that failure doesn't define anyone. It just shows you where to begin again. And you, meanwhile, are punishing yourself for things that weren't even disasters. They just didn't turn out the way you wanted. You're crucifying yourself over outcomes that simply didn't match your expectations, as if the universe had signed a contract promising everything would go perfectly, always. Here's the truth you need to hear. Failure isn't a sign of inability. It's a sign that you're in motion, that you tried, that you put something on the line. The only people who never fail are the ones who never do anything. And those people are dead inside, even if they're still breathing. Marcus Aurelius lost battles. He lost people he loved. He made decisions that went wrong. And still, he wrote in the middle of military campaigns. The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He didn't write that to sound deep. He wrote it because it was his daily reality. Every obstacle taught him something that comfort never could have. But you're not seeing your failures that way. You're using them as proof that you shouldn't try again. You tried to start a personal project and gave it up. Now every time you think about beginning something new, that voice appears. It'll just happen again. Who am I kidding? Or you had a relationship that didn't work out, and now you treat that as definitive proof that you're not enough. As if one person who left says more about you than all the times you got back up, worked hard, held others together, and kept going even when it hurt. Epictetus said it plainly. No one has a contract with life guaranteeing everything will go well. When something goes wrong, it's not a personal failure, it's just life doing what life does. Things don't always turn out the way you want, and that says nothing about your worth. It says you're human, and that you're actually living, not just playing it safe from the sidelines. Do you know what the real problem is? That you've turned failure into a permanent definition instead of seeing it for what it really is. Information data, feedback from the world, a result that shows you what to adjust, what to change, what to let go of, and what to hold on to. Think about this. How many times has something that seemed like a disaster at the time turned out to be exactly what you needed? That door that closed and forced you to take a different path. That plan that fell apart and years later you were grateful because it saved you from something worse. that loss that shattered you, but also taught you who you really are when everything breaks. Brian Acton got rejected from job interviews at Facebook and Twitter. 2 back-to-back rejections from the biggest companies around. He could have taken that as, "I'm not good enough." Instead, he co-founded WhatsApp years later. Facebook, the same company that turned him down, paid billions for what he built on his own. I'm not telling you this to sell some cheap motivational story. I'm telling you because it represents exactly what a Stoic attitude looks like. Take the hit, don't dramatize it, and keep building. Seneca wrote something that fits perfectly here. Sometimes even living is an act of courage. Because moving forward after something goes wrong, without turning yourself into a victim, without getting stuck in the drama, that takes more courage than any easy success ever will. So what do you do with your failures? First, stop calling them that. Start seeing them as rough drafts, as attempts, as versions that didn't work but brought you one step closer to what will. Second, change the question. Instead of asking yourself, "Why did I fail?" ask, "What did my character learn from this?" Because that's where the real value is, not in the external result, but in who you became while you were trying. Look back on your life. Think of a failure that once crushed you. Now look at it from a distance. What came after that? What did you learn? What doors opened precisely because that one closed? Sometimes life reroutes your path for you, my friend. And what looked like a disaster was simply a necessary redirection. The Stoic attitude isn't about glorifying failure. It's not about romanticizing pain or pretending everything happens for some beautiful reason. It's something much more practical. Use what happens to gain clarity and strength to understand yourself better, to find out what you're made of when life tests you. Every time something goes wrong and you decide not to turn it into your identity, you're building something more valuable than success. You're building resilience. You're training your ability to stay standing when everything shakes. And that ability is what allows you to get back up again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. Because here's what no one tells you. Real confidence doesn't come from everything going well. It comes from knowing that even if things go badly, you can handle it. That even if you fail, you're not defined by it. That even if it hurts, you're still capable of trying again. Marcus Aurelius didn't trust himself because he never failed. He trusted himself because he knew he had failed 1,000 times and was still there. Learning, adjusting, improving. That's how you build something solid inside yourself. Not through perfection, but through the ability to keep going even when everything falls apart. So stop using your failures as weapons against yourself. Stop pulling them out every time you think about starting something new. Stop letting a past result control every future decision. Because as long as you do that, as long as you keep treating every stumble as proof that you can't, you'll never really get back up. Learning to trust yourself again doesn't begin when everything goes right. It begins when something hurts, and you still choose not to make it a permanent definition. That's when you're acting like a Stoic. That's when you're building a version of yourself that doesn't need perfection to keep trying. Failure doesn't define you, it trains you. And if you learn to see it that way, every fall becomes the next step up. Lesson 15. Being vulnerable is also being strong. I know, there are days when even getting out of bed feels like a fight. And even when you do, no one notices the effort. No one sees the battle you had to fight with yourself just to show up, just to function, just to pretend things are normal. Seneca knew that well. He said that even living is an act of courage. And he didn't say it to sound philosophical. He said it because he went through dark moments. He didn't talk about moments when the mask of strength felt too heavy to hold up. We live in a culture that sells you the idea that you have to be able to handle everything, that showing cracks is weakness, that admitting something hurts is giving up. And you've believed it. You've spent years hiding what you feel, swallowing the pain, pretending everything is fine while you're falling apart inside. And do you know what happens when you do that? You harden on the outside, but break on the inside. You build an armor so heavy that you can no longer move freely. You live defending yourself from attacks that haven't even come, while the real damage is being done by you. not allowing yourself to be human. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations in private. No one was ever meant to read them. And in those pages, he admitted his doubts, his fears, his moments of weakness. He wasn't the all-powerful emperor all the time. He was a man wrestling with himself, wondering if he was doing the right thing, feeling tired and overwhelmed. But that didn't make him weak. It made him human. And that honesty with himself was exactly what gave him real strength. Because he wasn't wasting energy pretending to be someone he wasn't. He wasn't holding up a mask that weighed more than any crown. If Marcus Aurelius could write to you today, maybe he'd say something like this: "You are not less for feeling broken. You are human, and human nature isn't perfect or invincible, but it is capable of rising again, with more grace, when it's honest with itself." Think about your daily life. Those days when you pretend everything's fine at work because it's not the time to show vulnerability. When someone asks how you're doing and you say fine, even though you're falling apart inside. When asking for help feels like admitting defeat. When you swallow entire emotions just to avoid being a burden. And what do you get from that? Distance from yourself, from others. Because no one can connect with someone who never lets their guard down. No one can get close to someone who's always in control, and you're left alone, carrying all that weight, wondering why you feel so disconnected from the world. Epictetus taught that part of wisdom is accepting the human condition, not denying it, not hiding it, accepting it. That includes the broken parts, the painful parts, the parts you don't understand. Because all of those parts are yours too, and as long as you reject them, as long as you're ashamed of them, you'll never feel whole. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's telling the truth without a mask. It's saying this hurts without needing to justify it. It's admitting I can't do this alone without feeling like you failed. It's allowing yourself to feel what you feel, without judging yourself for it. When you try to hide your pain, it's like fogging up a window with your breath. You can still see life, but it's blurry. Everything gets confusing because you're using so much energy to hold up the facade. There's no clarity left to see what's really happening. Accepting what you feel clears that window. It lets you see more clearly. It lets you act from a real place. And here's what no one tells you. You can't learn to trust yourself again if you don't accept all parts of you, even the wounded ones. Because trusting yourself doesn't mean believing you'll always handle everything. It means knowing that when you can't, you'll have the honesty to admit it. That when you need help, you'll have the courage to ask for it. Seneca went through illness, exile, loss, and he wrote about it. Not to feel sorry for himself, but to process, to be honest, to remind himself that pain is part of the deal when you're alive, and that resisting it without acknowledging it only makes it heavier. My friend, normalize saying, "I'm not okay today." That's not giving up, that's being honest, that's taking the pressure off yourself to pretend you're always at 100. That's allowing yourself to be human in a world that expects you to be a machine. Asking for help is not weakness, my friend. It's strategy. The Stoics understood that no one gets far alone. That strength also lies in recognizing your limits and seeking support when needed. Marcus Aurelius surrounded himself with advisors for a reason. He knew he couldn't see everything, know everything, or carry everything, and he wasn't ashamed to admit it. Speak to yourself in a gentler tone. The Stoics didn't punish themselves. They corrected themselves with respect. They didn't beat themselves up for having bad days. They gave themselves space to recover because they knew that cruelty toward yourself doesn't make you stronger. It makes you more fragile. There's a huge difference between being vulnerable and being weak. Weakness is letting your emotions take full control, paralyze you, make every decision for you. Vulnerability is recognizing your emotions, accepting them, and still moving forward. It's saying, "This hurts and I accept it and I keep going." You can't build anything solid on a foundation of denial. You can't be strong if you never let yourself be honest. You can't get back up if you keep pretending you never fell. Because to get up first, you have to admit you're down, and there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is staying down while pretending you're still standing. If you want to rise and trust yourself again, stop demanding that you be a rock. Rocks don't heal. Rocks don't grow. Rocks don't feel, but you do. And that is your greatest strength, not your weakness. Lesson 16. Do you know where you're headed? There's a feeling that drains you more than physical exhaustion. That mix of burnout and emptiness that shows up when you feel like you're doing a lot, but none of it fulfills you. Like you're trying hard, but seeing no results. Like you're constantly in motion, but going nowhere. It's like rowing a boat with all your strength, but with no rudder. You can sweat, grit your teeth, row until your arms ache, and still end up in the same place. Because when you don't know where you're going, every effort becomes exhaustion. This happens to a lot of people without them even realizing. They sign up for tons of courses, start multiple projects, pack their schedule with tasks, commit to everyone. But when the end of the month comes, they feel like they haven't moved. Why? Because they've been putting out fires, running in circles. They're busy, yes, but not connected to what they truly want. They're not building a life. They're just surviving in the chaos. And I'm not the only one saying this. Seneca said it centuries ago, with a line so relevant it might as well have been written for you. If a man does not know to what port he is sailing, no wind is favorable. You can have discipline, motivation, even talent. But if you don't know where you're aiming your energy, you're just drifting through the sea of urgency. And no, you didn't come into this life for that. Because when you don't have a clear direction, everything distracts you. Any opinion shakes you. Any setback knocks you down. But when you know what you want, your focus sharpens, your confidence grows, and even your smallest decisions start to make sense. That's what makes the difference. Not living in reaction, but acting from your own center, from what you want to build. Productivity expert Thomas Frank puts it perfectly. He says that clarity of goals doesn't just make you more effective, it makes you freer. Because the world stops organizing your schedule and you start doing it yourself. And even though it sounds simple, that's a massive step toward a life lived with focus, conviction, and intention. So, how do you actually do this? How do you know where to go when everything feels important? Don't worry, you don't need a 10-year roadmap. You just need to start listening to yourself more. Here are 3 tools you can start using today. First, every Sunday, take 10 minutes to ask yourself a powerful question. In what direction do I want to move this week? Don't look for the perfect answer. Just connect with what feels right. And from there, write down 3 specific actions. For example, if your direction is to recover your well-being, your 3 actions could be: get 8 hours of sleep 3 nights, go for a 20-minute walk each day, and eat 1 meal a day without your phone. Small actions, yes, but chosen with intention, and that already changes everything. Second, create your minimum vision. Don't think 10 years ahead, think 3 months. Who do you want to be in 3 months? Write it in the present tense, as if you're already that person. I'm someone who finishes what I start. I'm someone who respects myself and sets boundaries. I'm someone who makes time for what matters. This exercise doesn't just give you clarity, it gives you emotional direction, because you're not just dreaming, you're designing. Third, when you feel lost or overwhelmed, go back to that vision and use it like a compass. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to or further from the person I want to be? You don't need every detail to be aligned, but your most important decisions should point in that direction. And if it's still hard, think about this. Even the biggest ships need to adjust their course from time to time. What matters isn't having the whole map. What matters is not letting the sea decide for you. You don't need grand plans, just a clear direction. Because when you know where you're going, your focus strengthens, your confidence locks in, and every step stops being a doubt and becomes a decision. That's how you start moving for yourself, trusting yourself, and acting from what you want, not from what others expect. And that, my friend, is already living for real. 17th lesson. Live like you have no time to waste. My friend, what I'm about to say is a little harsh but necessary. Imagine someone tells you you only have 1 day left. Exactly 24 hours, not a minute more. Would you really stay angry over that message you didn't get a reply to? Would you keep replaying that silly argument you had yesterday? Of course not. Because in that moment, everything that steals your calm and confidence becomes ridiculous. And yet, you live as if your days were endless. As if there will always be a tomorrow to fix things or truly start. How many days do you think you have left? Really, it's not that many. To make it clear, I'll tell you what Tim Urban did. He illustrated life with a sheet full of little boxes. Each box represents a day of your life, from birth until, theoretically, death. Yes, no one knows the exact day, but let's assume it's many years. Can you imagine that sheet? You can even create it yourself. When you see it, I'm sure the first thing you think is, wow, that's not a lot. The problem is we think we have tons of boxes ahead, but we cross them off rapidly with nonsense that leads nowhere. And watch out. Every time you lose your calm over something that doesn't matter, you don't just erase a box. You erase a day you could have lived in peace and purpose. Seneca understood this very well. In his work on the shortness of life, he wrote, "It is not that we have little time, but that we waste much." He wasn't trying to scare you. He wanted to wake you up, to make you realize that your energy, your mental peace, and your confidence are as valuable as time, and they fade just as fast if you don't take care of them. The Stoic didn't waste his days on useless arguments or chasing approval. He knew the clock doesn't stop, and every day lived with calm and focus is a day won. Think about it. You spend half an hour doubting whether to send an email, 2 hours on TikTok watching recipes you'll never cook, and you postpone calling your mom because, "I'll call her tomorrow." Then you say you don't have time for yourself. But no, the problem isn't time. It's what you spend it on, and how you let emotions and reactions you don't control drain it from you. So, my friend, if you don't want to reach the end and realize you've spent most of your days on things you don't even remember, start today. Ask yourself the uncomfortable question, what can I do right now to truly live? First, eliminate one thing you know doesn't add anything to your life. That endless scrolling, that series you don't even like but keep watching anyway, that habit of checking your phone every 2 minutes. Remove a time thief from your day, and you'll see how you regain space for what really matters. Second, dedicate a little time each day to something that brings you closer to who you want to be. It doesn't have to be a full hour. It can be 10 minutes of reading, a short walk to clear your thoughts, writing 2 lines about what you learned today. It may seem small, but it adds up. And best of all, it gives you the feeling that you're steering your life. Third, say what you need to say to the people you love. Today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow might not come. Call, send that message, make that visit. Don't save your words for a special moment. The special moment is now. And when you do, you free yourself from burdens that, without you realizing it, steal your peace and mental clarity. In the end, living like you have no time to waste doesn't mean rushing around. It means choosing carefully where you put your attention and energy. It means not letting a silly argument or repetitive thought steal an entire day from you. Because every time you choose calm over reaction and purpose over distraction, you gain a day that counts. And when you add up many days like that, you become someone nothing and no one can shake from the inside. Lesson number 18. Build strength on the hard days. Let's be honest. Some mornings you wake up and you're already losing. You haven't even opened your eyes and there's already a weight on your chest, like something invisible is crushing you before the day even begins. But don't worry. Marcus Aurelius had days like that too. This isn't a myth or some motivational story. He wrote about it. He said there were days he didn't want to get out of bed, but still got up because his duty went beyond how he felt. And that's the part no one tells you. Strength doesn't come from the good moments. It's not built when everything flows, when you feel motivated, when things go your way. It's built exactly on days like today when you don't want to keep going, and you do anyway. When everything tells you to quit, and you don't. Picture one of those days where it just pours on you for no reason. You spill your coffee. You're late. Someone talks to you rudely. Nothing goes how you expected. And on top of it all, you beat yourself up for feeling bad. as if you weren't allowed to be tired. On a day like that, Epictetus would look you in the eye and say, "This is the day to train. Not when it's easy. Today, now. When it's hard. Because hard days don't take your value away. They're not proof that you're failing. They're proof that you're in the ring, that you're alive, that you're trying. The only people who don't have hard days are the ones doing nothing, sitting on the sidelines, watching life go by without ever getting involved. That day when you don't even have the energy to shower, but you do it anyway. That day at work when everything goes wrong and you feel like you're going backwards when you thought you were making progress. That day when your mind tells you you're worthless, but you still get up and do something. Anything. Those are the days that define you. Seneca knew it. He said adversity reveals who you are when no one's watching. Anyone can be strong when everything's going well. Anyone can trust themselves when life is easy, but staying on your feet when everything is falling apart, moving forward even if you're crawling, that takes something deeper. That takes character, and character isn't built on comfortable days. It's forged in the ones that hurt, in the ones that make you doubt yourself, in the ones where you wonder if it's even worth it, because right there, when you choose to keep going anyway, that's when you become someone else. Angela Duckworth spent years studying what makes someone succeed, and she discovered something the Stoics already knew 2,000 years ago. The most talented person doesn't win. The one who keeps going, even when they don't want to, does. The one who chooses not to disappear on the bad days. The one who doesn't quit when quitting would be easier. Because resilience isn't about pushing through everything without feeling. It's not turning yourself to stone. It's moving forward with whatever you have. It's accepting that today you have less energy, less clarity, less strength, and doing something anyway, even if it's small, even if it's messy, even if no one sees it. When one of those heavy days comes, when you feel like you can't take one more thing, don't fight the day. Ask a different question. What version of me is being forged today? Because every time you choose to keep going when everything says stop, you're building something inside you that no one can take away. A strength that doesn't depend on your circumstances. A confidence that doesn't break when life gets hard. Marcus Aurelius wrote in the middle of war, illness, and loss. He didn't have perfect days. He had brutal days. And still he showed up. Not because he was some kind of superhero, but because he understood that his responsibility didn't disappear just because he didn't feel like showing up. His duty to himself was still there, even on the days when it was hardest to carry out. Pick a micro-duty for the day, and do it no matter what. It doesn't have to be big. It could be making your bed, walking for 5 minutes, writing 3 lines, anything. But it has to be something you said you'd do, because on the hard days, completing something small is a bigger victory than doing 10 things on a good day. And stop judging yourself for feeling bad. Feeling bad doesn't mean you're broken. Having a hard day doesn't mean you're going backwards. Being tired doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. It means you're doing things. It means you care. It means you're showing up in your life, not just watching it pass by. Epictetus said pain isn't a sign of weakness. It's part of the training. Because that's how you get stronger. Not by avoiding hard days, but by moving through them. Not by waiting for everything to feel easy before you act, but by acting even when it's hard. The bright days are beautiful, but they don't define you. Anyone can shine when the sun is out. You're defined by the dark ones. The ones where you stayed standing even when no one saw, the ones where you kept going, even though every part of you wanted to give up. The ones where you chose to stay true to yourself, even when it would have been easier not to. That's where real strength begins. That's where you build that more resilient version of yourself. Not in the perfect days you post online and the broken ones only you know about. In the moments no one sees, when you still choose to be who you said you'd be. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize something. The days you thought would destroy you were the ones that built you. The days you thought you wouldn't survive were the ones that taught you what you're made of. The days you thought you couldn't take anymore, but kept going anyway, Those are the days that gave you back your trust in yourself. You are not defined by your bright days. You are defined by the dark ones, by the ones where you stood tall, even when no one saw it. That's where your strength begins. Lesson 19. It's time to believe it. You've done the hard work. You've emptied the backpack, cleared your mind, chosen new paths, walked away from people who drained your energy. You've pushed through days with no motivation, acted without waiting for applause, and proved to yourself again and again that yes, you can. But there's still one thing left, and it's the hardest part of all. What if the final step wasn't doing more, but accepting who you are now? Because it's not enough to move forward if you're still dragging around the idea that you're not enough. It's like running a marathon, and then standing at the finish line with your head down, thinking you only made it by luck. Let me tell you something. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine was preparing for a competitive exam. He spent almost 2 years at it, waking up at 5 every day, turning down plans, skipping trips, giving up weekends. Every second was devoted to studying. On the day of the exam, he crushed it. He got the position, he did it, but do you know what he told me a week later? I think I got lucky. It was probably just because the others were nervous. And it broke something inside me. Because that's when I understood. The problem wasn't his effort. The problem was that deep down he still didn't believe he was enough. That's what's happening to you, even if you haven't seen it clearly yet. You're doing the work, you're growing, you're changing, but you're still looking at yourself through the eyes of your old version, the one who doubted, who sabotaged themselves, who always found an excuse not to take the leap. And no, my friend, you're not that person anymore, you just haven't accepted it yet. Believing in yourself isn't about repeating motivational quotes. It's about daring to look at yourself with respect, with truth. It's about accepting that you don't need to wear any more masks, that you don't need more proof to feel legitimate, that everything you've already done speaks louder than your insecurities. And yes, I know, it's hard. It's hard to sit in the space you built with your own sweat. It's hard not to run. It's hard not to seek approval. But that's where real freedom begins. Psychology puts it simply, the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and conviction. If you decide to believe you're small, even with the world at your feet, you'll still walk hunched over. But if you really decide to believe it, if you look in the mirror and tell yourself, yes, I did this, everything changes. Stephen Pressfield, author of The War of Art, says it like this. At some point, the warrior realizes he's no longer training. He's ready to fight. And you're there. You're no longer practicing. You're living what you once dreamed of. All that's left is to own it. The next time you doubt yourself, remember this line from Epictetus. First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. You know why you need to remember that? Because you already did it. Now you just have to believe it. If this whole journey has meant anything, it's this. Believing in yourself isn't the end goal. It's the key that unlocks everything else. Because when you do, you no longer need applause or permission or validation. You start living for you, by you, with you. And believe me, once you get there, there's no going back. Lesson 20. Turn the blows into fuel. Imagine you're out at sea. The waves keep coming one after another, pushing you back. You're exhausted, frustrated, feeling like you're not moving forward. But suddenly, instead of fighting them, you adapt to their rhythm. You use each impact as a push, and without realizing it, you're closer to shore. That's exactly how life's blows work. They can drown you, or they can propel you forward. It all depends on what you do with them. And before you say this sounds too idealistic, think for a moment. How many times have you gone through something tough that later made you stronger, clearer, more yourself? It wasn't pretty or easy, but it was fuel. And that's exactly what you need if you want to keep your calm and your confidence, even in the middle of chaos, so that nothing and no one can shake you inside. Seneca put it plainly in a powerful phrase, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, every blow you thought would break you in two was actually building your backbone. But of course, this only works if you learn to see those difficulties as training. And here's the key question. Are you doing that? Because often it's not the blow that hurts most. It's how you interpret it. If you believe something bad means you're not good enough, you sink. But if you see it as a challenge forcing you to level up, your mindset changes. And that's where your true strength begins. Picture this. You're working on a big project, days of effort, sleepless nights. And just 1 week before delivery, the client cancels. Goodbye to your work, goodbye to the money. Worst of all, you feel it was all for nothing. That night you can't sleep. Your stomach's in knots. Anger, disappointment. But the next day, something shifts. You decide to learn a new skill so you can offer something different. You start small, taking on minor projects. One of those clients recommends you, and that unexpected turn, born from the blow, becomes your takeoff. No, it wasn't magic. It was choice. It was mindset. Now let's get practical, because this isn't just about inspiration, it's about movement. First, when you take a hit, bad news, rejection, disappointment, pause for a second. Breathe and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What skill is life asking me to develop? Sometimes the answer won't come right away, but simply asking the question already changes your stance. Second, write down one action. Not something huge, something small, manageable. Can you read 10 pages of that book you've been putting off? Send that email you've been avoiding? Try a new strategy? Do it today. Because when you act, you stop being the victim of the blow and become the author of your response. Third, celebrate. Even if it's just one step. Even if all you did was get out of bed when it was hard. Even if you simply held yourself together without snapping. Celebrate the fact that you didn't let yourself be dragged under. Because that attitude is what feeds your confidence and strengthens your inner calm. Exactly what you need so that, no matter what happens, you don't lose control of your inner world. And if you ever feel like you can't take it anymore, that a blow has left you without strength or direction, hear this. In one episode of Rob Dial's podcast, he says something that stuck with me. That every time life knocks you to the ground, it's giving you a new perspective. And from down there you can see things you'd never notice standing up. So when you're in that place, put on your headphones and listen to one of those episodes. It won't fill you with empty slogans, but with concrete ideas to get back up stronger. Sometimes, you just need someone to remind you that this blow, if you use it well, can be your best push forward. My friend, I'll leave you with this thought. What's the most recent blow you could turn into fuel? Think about it. Because maybe, right there, in what hurts now, is your next big opportunity. Share it in the comments. And if you feel this message connected with you, write, "Today I turn my blows into fuel." Because recognizing the hit, taking a deep breath and moving forward with determination is for the brave, and you've already proven you can be one. Lesson 21. Master your mind before it masters you. Imagine your mind is like a WhatsApp group where no one ever shuts up. One message says, "You're going to fail." Another one, "They probably think badly of you." And another, "Better not try, you'll just get hurt again." Non-stop notifications, constant noise, and there you are reading each message as if it were the absolute truth. Epictetus would have been the first one to leave the group. No drama, no goodbyes. He simply would have understood that you can't live with that kind of mental pollution 24 hours a day. But you're still in there. Every morning you open your eyes and the broadcast has already started. Thoughts about everything that could go wrong. Memories of when things did go wrong. Predictions that it'll all go wrong again. And do you know what's worse? You believe that voice is you. That those thoughts are reality. That if your mind tells you you're worthless, it must be true. But here's the first shift you need to make. You are not your thoughts. You're the one who observes them. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by permanent chaos. Wars, betrayals, illness. conspiracies, endless pressure. He could have let himself be dragged down by every dark thought that came to him. Instead, he wrote something that sounds simple, but changed everything for him. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. He didn't write, "My life is a mess." He wrote about how he thought about what was happening to him, because he understood that the real battlefield wasn't outside, it was inside his own head. Now think about your daily life. Before you send an important email, your mind has already shown you 20 catastrophic outcomes. Someone takes a while to reply, and you've already imagined a whole rejection story. You think about starting a new project, and that familiar thought shows up. You tried before, and it didn't work. Let it go. And that's the problem. If you leave your mind on autopilot, it always takes you to the same place. Fear, guilt, worst-case scenarios, rejection. It's like a broken GPS that only knows one route, and it always leads to the same dead end. So how do you build something more resilient in yourself if every time you try to begin, your mind throws at you? You'll fall again. You can't. That's why mastering your mind isn't some philosophical luxury. It's practical survival. Epictetus would tell you straight, you can't control what happens outside, but you can stop feeding certain thoughts. If you keep giving them your attention, they grow. If you ignore them, they weaken. Think of your mind like a spam filter. You're getting thoughts all the time. Some are useful, real facts, valid observations. Others are useless. I'm not enough. Everything's going to go wrong, nobody takes me seriously. A Stoic learns to flag those as spam. At first, they still get through, but with training, fewer and fewer show up in your main inbox. How do you train that? Start here. Every time a limiting thought appears, ask yourself one simple question. Is this a fact, or is it just an interpretation? Because most of the time, what's holding you back isn't facts. It's the stories you're telling yourself. They probably think I'm a fraud. Is that a fact? Has someone told you that? Or is it just another movie you're playing in your head? This opportunity isn't for me. Why? Who decided that? Or did your mind already cross you off before you even tried? Seneca compared an agitated mind to a messy room where you can't find anything, everything in disarray, everything mixed up, useful ideas you've been dragging around for years. And in that mess, you try to make important decisions. It doesn't work. Here's something that will help, my friend. Start giving names to your mental movies. Ah, here it comes again. Everything will go wrong. Part 4. It sounds silly, but it works because when you give it a name, when you identify it, you take away its power. You stop taking it so seriously. And once you identify it, you do something even more important. You act in the opposite direction. Your mind says, "Don't send that message, they'll judge you." You stop for 10 seconds, breathe, and you send it anyway. Your mind says, "Don't make that call, they'll reject you." You stop, breathe, and dial the number. That small action is how you master your mind in practice. It's not about sitting to meditate for 8 hours. It's about choosing a different response when your brain tries to push you straight into fear. Marcus Aurelius did this every day. Not because it was easy, but because he understood that if he didn't train his mind would train him, and it would take him exactly where he didn't want to go. Fear, doubt, paralysis. You can't expect to trust yourself if your thoughts are speaking to you like enemies all day long. You can't build anything solid on a foundation of constant mental noise. You can't get back up if every time you try, there's a voice inside telling you that you won't make it. Marcus didn't wake up confident because life was easy. He woke up confident because every day he trained his mind again. Every day he chose which thoughts to listen to and which ones to let pass as background noise. If you want to rise and trust yourself again, you'll have to do the same. Stop swallowing every thought like it's gospel. Start choosing which stories you tell yourself, because in the end, your life isn't what happens to you. It's what you think about what happens to you. I direct my thoughts, not the other way around. That's the decision. Everything else is just noise. My friend, I'm going to propose something to you right now, a mix of bravery and honesty. Think of that one thought that held you back today, even if it was just for a few seconds. Just one. Now write it in the comments like this. My mind says, but I choose. Because once you write it, it's no longer just a thought. It becomes a decision. And let me ask you one direct question before we continue. Are you ready to stop being a hostage of your own mind? If the answer is yes, just write, ready. That way I'll know who's really here to do the real work. Lesson 22. You don't know how to focus your mind. My friend, I'm going to tell you something you might not like, but you need to hear it. You're not wasting your time. It's being stolen from you, and the thief doesn't wear a ski mask or run away. It's in your pocket, it buzzes every 5 minutes, and it feeds on your attention. And the worst part? You're handing it over willingly with a smile saying, just 5 more minutes. We live in an era where your mind doesn't belong to you. Every time you open a social app, you're not choosing what to see. Someone else already decided for you. Every time a notification pops up, you're reacting. And every time you react, you give away your power. The strange thing is, you don't even notice. Because you're busy. Really busy. Doing a lot of things, but none that bring you closer to yourself. Think of your attention like a lighthouse beam. It can light up one fixed point, help you move forward, give you clarity. But if you let it spin around aimlessly, all it does is cast everything into shadow. It doesn't light your way. It makes you dizzy. And that's where you are, confused, feeling like the day slipped away and you can't even say how. Let me guess. You sit down to work and think, time to be productive. You open your email, see a notification from Instagram, click just a minute, watch a funny video, read some dumb comment, get annoyed, reply, check another post, another video, and when you look at the clock, it's already noon. And you haven't moved a single line forward. Sound familiar? It happens to all of us. So no, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Because if you don't choose where your attention goes, the world will choose for you. And trust me, it won't be with your well-being in mind. Listen to what Marcus Aurelius wrote. Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one. And to be one, you need focus. Focus on what's within your control. Because if you go through life letting everything steal your attention, you'll end up the lead actor in someone else's script. And if Marcus Aurelius saw you now, with 4 tabs open, your phone in your hand, and your mind anywhere but on you, I guarantee he'd grab your phone and throw it out the window of the Colosseum. Now let's be serious. You need to train your attention like a muscle, because it is one. And no, multitasking isn't the solution. It's part of the problem. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, explains it clearly. Your brain isn't built for multitasking. Every time you switch from one thing to another, you lose focus, energy, and clarity. So how do you start focusing on yourself, believing in your ability, and acting with direction? Here are 3 simple but powerful steps you can start using today. First, choose just 3 priorities for the day. Write them down, not in your head, on paper. And every time something new tries to sneak into your day, ask yourself, does this fit with my 3 priorities? If it doesn't get in, period. Second, create a Stoic hour. Block out 1 hour a day. No phone, no notifications, no interruptions. Just you, doing what matters to you. Reading, writing, studying, building your project. Whatever it is, as long as it comes from you. Protect it like others protect their nap time. Third, train your focus like endurance. Do short, focused sessions without distraction. Start with 10 minutes and build from there. Make it hard on purpose. And when it starts to feel tough, that's when the real training begins. And don't worry, you don't have to do it perfectly. What matters is that you start taking back control of your attention, that you stop being a slave to the algorithm, to what others expect, to fake urgency. Because the more you train your mind to focus on you, the more confidence you'll feel. And the more confident you are in what you're doing, the easier it is to act from your center. That's the secret. It all starts with learning to direct your attention, to guard your mental energy like it's gold. Because it is. So let me ask you something. What if the internet went down tomorrow, worldwide? No social media, no emails, no content to consume. Where would you put your attention? What would you work on? What would you build? Maybe, my friend, that's where your real freedom begins. Keeping calm and trusting yourself is what truly allows you to move forward without anything or anyone shaking your mind. Every day is a test, and at the same time, an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can stand firm. It's not about the world becoming easier, but about you becoming strong enough to get through any storm. Because true strength isn't in avoiding the blows, it's in staying standing after you take them. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "I stand firm even when everything shakes." Reaching the end of this video is no accident. It means something in you wants to grow, and that already sets you apart from most. Subscribe and share this video with someone who needs it. That simple gesture helps us keep spreading this message of growth. On screen, you'll find a playlist to go even deeper. Click and let's keep learning together.